Thank you.
Chairman, can I enter something into the record?
Yes.
Unanimous consent to enter a Turning Point memo article says, J.D. Vance, some Americans are more American than others, particularly those who fought in the Civil War, which I would ask, which side?
Just provide that document to us. Without exception, without objection, submitted to the record. I have several questions. Mr. Kester, thank you for being here. We heard some comments earlier about the high price of beef that is in the stores. At $9 a pound, I think is what was said. $9.06. Yep. Could you tell me how much your live cattle sells for?
Yes, it depends. We're in some value added programs, so it can range. We retain our calves, sell them as yearlings, and so they can easily, a 900-pound steer plus can make $3 a pound right now.
Not $9, but $3?
$3 per pound.
Yeah.
So roughly, $3,000 a head.
So over the last 4 years, with inflation going up 22%, have you seen fertilizer prices go up?
Oh, yes.
Have you seen hay prices go up?
Yes.
Other feed prices go up?
All prices have gone up.
Wow.
Yes.
And over the last 4 years, that was during the Biden administration when inflation gone up 22%.
Yes.
So I do want to point out, Dr. Rao, you made a comment talking about the bill earlier, saying that this bill will explode prosperity, not debt. Thought that was a very, very good statement. And I would reiterate, I know that what has been submitted into the record a little bit ago was scores of this bill from Penn Warden. We've talked about the Congressional Budget Office. You look at the Congressional Budget Office, whenever they score this bill, they scored at growth rate at 1.8%. 1.8. If you look at the growth rate for our nation over the last 50 years, we've averaged 2.7 over the last 50 years. But the Congressional Budget Office scores it at 1.8. If we get a 2.8% growth rate, 2.8, this bill, according to CBO's projections, would cut the deficit by more than $500 billion, not add to it. Is that something you would agree with?
Thank you, Congressman Smith. Yes, I do agree with that. And to take it further, I think what's very important so that we have in future debates about tax reform, so that we have fewer independent entities at universities throwing out their own scores. I want to reemphasize the point I made before, that if the CBO would just make its models public and its source code public, then what could be done is economists can put in numbers that are consistent with what we know from the economics literature about just how much growth responds to tax policy. And we know that growth responds to tax policy through the research that I cited in a much more vigorous way than is modeled by the CBO. So I agree very much.
So earlier in your questioning, you also was talking about some of the individuals of the numbers that have been thrown out there that they will lose their Medicaid are individuals that just choose not to follow the guidelines. And I would like to point out that if you, according to the Congressional Budget Office, since it loves to be quoted a lot around here, according to the Congressional Budget Office, when you look at the individuals that will be thrown off of Medicaid, 48% of the individuals that they put in their number are able-bodied, healthy adults with no kids who simply choose not to work or volunteer 20 hours a week. 16%, according to the Congressional Budget Office, will have access to other forms of subsidized health insurance, including the option to stay on Medicaid. And then there's 13%, according to the Congressional Budget Office, they're already ineligible for the Medicaid program and just haven't been removed from the rolls. They shouldn't have even been on them. And then 11% are illegal immigrants, and they're not supposed to be receiving it according to federal law. But 11% according to the Congressional Budget Office, and then 12% according to the Congressional Budget Office are fraudsters who don't submit the common verification requirements. Is that kind of where you were going earlier in your questioning?
Well, absolutely, and I would take it further by also saying that, you know, studies of the reforms of welfare, of our national welfare program that President Clinton championed in the mid-1990s, those studies show that when you have people, when you have work requirements, you lead to a situation where people live more lives of dignity, where ultimately it's better even for those folks. And as you mentioned, you know, there are many categories of people that are included in these sort of aggregate numbers of people who might go off Medicaid. As you said, some of them were not actually legally should have been on Medicaid in the first place. Others of them are really just, you know, they're voluntarily going to choose to go on to private insurance. And so I think these stories of how catastrophic it's going to be for people are just exaggerations, particularly in light of the fact that there are, of course, exemptions. There are exemptions for people who are not able-bodied and cannot work. And as you mentioned, so much of the expansion of Medicaid over the last 10 years has gone to providing it to able-bodied people who can work.
So, Mr. Chairman,
So
point of
it's my
clarification.
time, Mr. Gomez.
Point of clarification. We have a moment.
It's my time.
There's no time. There's just constant.
Another
Is this your
question.
close? I mean,
Another question.
point of clarification. Point of order.
I'll feel free to let you interrupt me this moment. What is it, Mr. Gomez?
I just want to make sure that I was point of clarification.
Clarify.
So the Congressional Budget Office is only worthy when their information backs up your point, but is to be discounted if it doesn't back up your point. That's what you're basically telling everybody.
You're
correct?
putting words in my mouth, so the clarification is wrong. I'm reclaiming my time. What I will say is there's numerous times that I disagree with the scoring of the Congressional Budget Office. Actually, more times than not, I disagree with their numbers. And I've challenged them because they were off by $1.7 trillion on the 2017 Tax Cut and Jobs Act. And $1.7 trillion being off is pretty big. It has a drastic effect. But if we're talking about CBO, I think it's also important, if you love CBO, CBO confirmed in their final analysis of the One Big Beautiful Bill, its anti-fraud provisions, in fact, lowers Obamacare premiums by 0.6%. So any comment saying otherwise, according to CBO, is just not true. And I also want to point out the expanded temporary Obamacare credits that have been mentioned earlier are untargeted, and they benefit making people more than 400% of the federal poverty line. So a family in Arizona making as much as $600,000 a year will receive subsidies under the Democrats' expansion proposal. It would cost $400 billion, but it's not in this bill. They talk about it, but it's not in this bill. We don't even touch it. It expires at the end of the year. So there's a lot of comments about the provisions of this bill not being popular. If you go by the different provisions, according to the Harvard poll that just came out in the last couple weeks, it's quite amazing. Like the no tax on tips, no tax on overtime scores over 65%. The child tax credit expansion. The child tax credit expansion is over 67%. The health savings accounts that we put in the bill was 76%. The Trump accounts, savings for individuals, was 65%. So I could just go on and on, but I just want to reiterate how much I appreciate the Reagan Library for hosting this event. I think it's extremely important for us to get outside of Washington to hear from people. These are filled hearings. It's the same thing as committee hearings. In Washington, they're not town halls. And so they're hearings outside of Washington, so it's easier for people to be part of a congressional hearing. And how we run them on filled hearings is the same way that we've run them in Washington, D.C. And so I would like to leave with one quote before I close. We've been quoting Reagan a lot, and so I'd like to say a quote that I think is pretty good. Reagan said, "You can't be for big government, big taxes, and big bureaucracy and still be for the little guy." And that's how he served with the 1981 tax cuts, the 1986 tax cuts,